Welcome back to Booster Therapy, your cure for that pack cracking addiction. We have a special commander deck tech and another custom commander for one of our generous patrons. Before we bust into this, there's a couple things I want to go over. First is the ways you can support the channel. Be a subscriber, thumbs up, become a patron of the channel. And there's even a link, yes, an affiliate link to TCG Player. It's where you can buy your cards at the cheapest. If you could click our affiliate link before purchasing those cards, we'd appreciate it. The other thing is, with this, I'm going to go through a deck tech, a special deck made for, like I said, a patron, a friend of the channel. But we also have a giveaway of another budget commander deck. And I'm not going to go through all the details, but it is a budget Grumgully the Generous commander deck that we are going to give away for free to one lucky viewer. So you get everything in the contents of this secret layer. I'll seal it up and ship it out. All you have to do, if you want to be entered to win, is be a subscriber, ring the bell so you get notifications, and leave a comment on this video. After a couple days, Pat and I are going to choose one lucky winner from the comments below, and that person is going to have the custom $50 budget Grumgully sent their way. So if you want to win that deck, or if you want a chance to win, be a subscriber, ring the bell, and make sure you leave a comment on this video. Without further ado, let's look at this custom commander deck and break down my version of Gahiji, the honored one. So Gahiji is 2 colorless, red, green, and white for a 4/4 whenever a creature attacks one of your opponents or a planeswalker an opponent controls. That creature gets +2/+0. So this not only ramps up your creatures to being a little bit more devastating, but Gahiji also encourages your opponents to attack anybody but you. So as usual, we're going to start with our ramp package for this commander, and we have a handful of them, starting with Birds of Paradise. The reason that Birds of Paradise is good is this is also a 2/1 attacker when it does attack if Gahiji is out. We have the Incubation Druid that can tap for one of all the mana pool mana that you got in the mana pool. Yep, and you can adapt it. We've got the Sakura Tribe Elder, where you can sack and find a land. The Zertod Druid, which I just love for mana ramp because it also pings each of your opponents every time you tap them. Cultivate, because what would a deck be without a Cultivate and a Kodama's Reach, both standards in your ramp package. Chromatic Lantern to make sure that our lands can tap for any color, and it is also a 3-mana ramp spell. Farseek, one of the better 2-mana ramps, and it lets us search for that, Stomping Ground or one of those dual lands that help us with fixing and getting what we need to go. Soul Ring, because every deck needs a Soul Ring. And, oop, we jumped. Let's get to our targeted removal. Or just removal, but that's our ramp package for this one. It's a pretty simple, pretty standard one when you're playing green. Beast Within is our first targeted removal spell, and if Beast Within is not enough, we also have a Generous Gift. They operate the exact same way, except one gives you a beast, the other one gives you an elephant. So, your choice, you get one. Swords to Plowshares, because it's one of the most efficient creature removal spells in the game. It exiles it. It's perfect. Shatter the Sky, giving us that Wrath effect just in case our opponents get ahead of us with creatures, or it gets a little devastating, or we get board wiped and we need to respond with a board wipe. It gives us that opportunity. Cleansing Nova, I actually like this more for the artifacts and enchantments function, but the versatility is just always nice. We get a choice. Dark Steel Mutation. Dark Steel Mutation is going to turn anybody's superpowered commander into a 0/1 indestructible that is nothing but a bug. Path to Exile, similar to Swords to Plowshares, just a really efficient targeted removal spell. And then one of my favorite in white is the Winds of Abandon, where you can overload it and exile every creature you don't control. So if we've built a devastating board state but somebody else has as well, we can wipe everyone else's, keep ours intact, and then cut in for the win. So that is our removal package. The next thing we're going to talk about is Goblins. One, because it's an unexpected thing, and also because it's a great way to build a ton of tokens that we can give that +2/+0 to while they're attacking our opponents. The first part of our Goblins is Krenko, because of course Krenko makes a ton of Goblins. The mob boss is able to tap to create X 1/1 red goblins, where X is the number you control. So even with just Krenko, that's creating 1, and then 4, and then, you know, so on 8. It just escalates quickly. We have the Goblin Trash Master. It lets us anthem the goblins, but it also gives us that ability to sacrifice and destroy artifacts, which is really, really important, especially when we're working on an overall budget of $100, which is what the patron gave for this deck. Looking for ways that are inexpensive to give us that utility to answer threats on the board is really important. The Goblin Matron, because it lets us tutor up any of our goblins that we need, whether it's Krenko or the Trash Master or any of the other ones you're going to see in a moment. The Legion War Boss, because it's free tokens every time, just really efficient, and I love the artwork too. This is one of my favorite looking goblins. Another Krenko, similar, it's just as he gets bigger, we're creating on his power too, not equal to the number of 1/1 counters on it, but his power. So remember, the first time he attacks, he doesn't just get the 1/1 counter, he's hopefully also getting +2/+0, which is going to give us 2 more red goblins on top of that. The War Chief gives all of our goblins haste, so we can use their abilities right away, and it also helps us to ramp a little bit. It reduces the cost of our goblins. And then Pashalik Mons, because if another goblin you control dies, it deals 1 damage to any target. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit, is when goblins die or when we're sacrificing them. This is going to be this is a potential piece of a combo that we already have a lot of other pieces for. So that's the Goblin package. The next is going to be kind of our utility spells and enchantments and some of our payoffs that we'll talk about even later. But the first one is Eladamri's Call. It's a creature tutor spell that's instant speed, so you can do it at the end of the turn before yours. Really efficient. It puts it in your hand. It's just a great card. Idyllic Tutor. We're going to have some very important enchantments in this deck, and this is a clean and easy way to get one. Rootbound Defenses. We're going to have a lot of tokens, so Populate's going to be nice, but also just having that instant speed protection spell to give all of our creatures indestructible and prevent us from dying to a Wrath of God. Assemble the Legion, because this escalates quickly just like Krenko does. We're just constantly getting more and more 1/1 red soldiers. And notice too, there's very few humans in this deck. There's a reason for that. Luminarch Ascension. We're going to be gaining a lot of life in this deck and hopefully preventing a lot of damage. So if we didn't lose life, we get these counters. This thing goes online super quickly too, especially in Commander when you have 3 turns to get back to your own. Triumph of the Hordes. When we have a huge board state, this is an absolute finisher, giving all of our creatures that we have +1/+1 and trample and infect, and then the +2/+0 as well really can end the game quickly. Scale Up. It's similar to Triumph of the Hordes. It's just turning all these 1/1 tokens that we have into giant worms for a turn. We can overload that and really be devastating. Reap the Past is a fantastic recursion spell. It is at random, but the fact that you can pay X and just get a lot of your cards back into play if somebody's really dealt with you well is a good way to rebound. March of the Multitudes, we're going to have tons of ways to convoke. We even have 1 infinite mana combo in here, so we can really get a payoff on this one. And Aurelia's Fury, another payoff for our infinite mana. We can destroy or deal X damage divided as we choose among any number of creatures or players. So 1, we can either just tap out people's creatures or destroy them, but the other hope is that we actually can burn down all of our opponents with that card. Next thing we're going to go through is our creature package outside of the tokens. So we have a few nice utility creatures. The first one is the Orin Frostfang. This is a great card because it gives all of our attacking creatures Death Touch. Those 1/1s, or really hopefully 3/1s, become so much more devastating when you have Death Touch, but also whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. So getting to draw that many cards, this is a huge engine for us. Beast Whisperer, we're casting a lot of creature spells. It just gives us those creatures off the cast trigger, which is always great. Archon of Valor's Reach, we can shut down those pesky instants or planeswalkers or whatever is becoming a problem on the board. This way we can lock it down and stop people from playing more of them. Michaeloth, we're going to have a lot to devour, so even if we ate 3 or 4 goblins with this and made them that much bigger, we're going to get a ton of Saprolines every turn, so it's really just adding more fuel to the token fire. Revelark, so we can pull back some of those goblins or some of the combo pieces we're going to see in a moment. It really helps save a couple of our creatures that are important to build off of. Captivating Crew, we're going to have a handful of sack outlets, and if we can't deal with a creature with one of our targeted removals, this is a great way to gain control of it, use it against your opponents, and then sacrifice it so it ends up in their graveyard. The mirror entity, with all of the different tokens we have, this is just a great way to build them into big beasts. It's similar to kind of scale up, but on a creature or on a body. And it's a goblin too. And then we have Recruiter of the Guard, so we can search for any of those creatures with a toughness 2 or less, so finding Mirror Entity or some of those important cards that are important for our combos, this is a great card to help us find that. And the last one is Hell Rider. It's just adding a little bit more fire to those tokens as well. It's really making them that much more damaging when we attack. The next part we're going to talk about is kind of our combo pieces and how we're going to work off some of those combos. So let me make sure I didn't grab one too many there. Put that back. So the first thing we have is a sack outlet. It's called Martyr's Cause. Sacrifice a creature, prevent all damage to a creature or player from one source. So on its own, somewhat effective, especially against those Voltron decks. But in general, it's just looking to be a sack outlet. The next one, we're going to kind of keep these combo pieces on the board, is called Impact Tremors. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to each opponent. So this already works really well with all the token generation, but then we'll have an infinite loop that we can also benefit off this card with. Another great sack outlet is Goblin Bombardment. You can sack a creature and deal 1 damage to target creature or player. Ashnod's Altar gives us mana for every time we sacrifice one of our creatures. Blasting Station, we can sack a creature, deal a damage, and it untaps whenever another creature comes into play. And then you'll start seeing it here. Cauldron of Souls can give all of our creatures persist until end of turn. So we'll put that in the middle. And then we're going to start lining it up with our other persist creatures. So we talked about Pashalik Mons. This is a goblin. It has persist. If we can sacrifice this infinitely, even without any of these other combo pieces beyond a sack outlet, this will have Pashalik Mons trigger off and do that 1 damage every turn. Kitchen Finks, it's another persist mechanic that we're hopefully going to go infinite with, and it can also give us infinite life, which is also going to be very important. Safehold Elite, it's going to be our most inexpensive persist creature. Not a lot of flavor outside of it having persist, but that might be just enough. And then we have our ways to protect the persist creature. So the first one is Renata, which is each other creature you control enters the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. So if I sack a creature with persist, and this is on the board, Renata is, it will come back to the board with that 1/1 counter on it, and you can sacrifice it infinite times at that point and loop it, because it will never sit with a -1/-1 counter on it, and you'll be able to combo off with a lot of different ways. Grumgully is another way to do this. It's the same as Renata, same idea, and it's all for on non-human creatures. Another reason we don't have any humans. The other thing that's nice about these is even if we don't get the infinite combo, all of our tokens are non-human, and we're adding those 1/1 counters to all of those non-human creatures. So the goblins, the soldiers, all of these are 2/2s now or better instead of just the 1/1s. And then we have the Good Fortune Unicorn, which is just like Grumgully, except it also is a 2/2, which normally wouldn't be a good thing, but in this case, this is actually a great thing because we can tutor the Good Fortune Unicorn with the Recruiter of the Guard. The last piece of the combo is going to be our infinite mana, and there's one way to do it with Ashnod's Altar and a persist creature, and then Grumgully or Good Fortune Unicorn or Renata gives us infinite colorless mana. Vizier of Remedies with the Devoted Druid will give us infinite green mana. So this one will, not being able to put a -1/-1 counter on a creature helps with our persist creatures, which is great. So similar to like Malira, if you know that legendary creature, this works in the same way. When we're persisting, even if we don't have one of these 3, we're actually keeping the -1/-1 counter off of it, and we're able to continue to sacrifice it infinitely. But it also helps with Devoted Druid to untap it. It won't get the -1/-1 counter, and you can constantly untap for free and get 1 green mana. And then we're going to dive into another part of the combo here, which is going to be our life gain and how we're going to play off of that. And this is kind of the last piece of the deck, and then we've got lands. So Angelic Chorus is whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to its toughness. All of these persisting infinitely will gain you infinite life if Angelic Chorus is on the board. So you wouldn't necessarily need Kitchen Finks to get infinite life. You would just need any of your persist creatures or the Cauldron of Souls to give all of your creatures persist. The next one is Soul's Attendant. It works just like Angelic Chorus, but it's a heck of a lot cheaper, and you can Recruiter of the Guard it. It's whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain a life. Same with Soul Warden. The other thing that's nice about these is you gain life for your opponent's creatures entering the battlefield as well. So it's just a great way to gain life and get up there. Daxos, Blessed by the Sun, gains us 2 life if we're looping with a sack outlet. So when that creature enters the battlefield, we gain a life. When the creature dies, we gain a life. So we can gain 2 life for all those. But again, the idea is just gaining infinite life. And then we've got 2 ways for payoff. We've got the Felidar Sovereign. If we get infinite life and we can survive a turn with it, we win the game just outright. And the other one is the Aetherflex Reservoir, which partners really well with infinite life because we can just blast each opponent out of the water, dealing 50 damage to them and win the game that way. So a lot of different ways to win. We've got infinite life combos with payoffs. We've got infinite mana combos with Aurelia's Fury, or even just getting March of the Multitudes with infinite tokens should probably win you the game. And then we have Goblin Bombardment and Impact Tremors to do infinite damage as well if we're persisting that way, or Blasting Station. If nothing else like that works, though, we still have Gahiji, who's encouraged your opponents to attack each other. It's making your creatures bigger. We always have things like Triumph of the Hordes if we want to do something really perfectly evil. And this is my Gahiji breakdown. And these are just a bunch of lands to help with it, and they all fit within the $100 budget. And John, I hope you enjoy this deck, and I hope that your play group really has fun. It's also John's birthday, so if the comment to win the Grumgully deck is simply just Happy Birthday, John, I think he'd appreciate that. It's a good way to leave a comment. You don't need to tell me how amazing my voice is, because I already know. But until next time, this is Booster Therapy. I hope you enjoyed this Commander deck tech. You all have a wonderful rest of your week.